Hey Garth, good to see you again. This is
Yeah,
my favorite time of the week.
yeah, Jason, great to see you as always. Listen, we've got an amazing guest today. It's pretty phenomenal. She is an author. She is the chief heart officer as well. Great titles, great title of her job, great title of her book, and her book is called "Be Yourself at Work."
Hmm.
Uh, Jason, I'm in my first year as head of school. How I need your advice. How do you be yourself at work? What's one example?
Well, I don't think there's any other way to be. I'm just super uncomfortable if I'm not in my own skin. So I kind of listen to my gut, Garth. Like I think one really easy way to listen to your gut is to pay attention to your sleep. If you're not sleeping well, for me, if you're not like having restful sleep and you're not recharging, something really isn't sitting well, then I think it's time for introspection. What is keeping
Wow.
you up at night? And I think that's what I listen to most, honestly. And if I'm sleeping well at night, genuinely, I think I'm being pretty authentic and real at work. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know how that lands. That's a good question, Garth. What?
No, it's great. It's great. It's just that idea. I love it. Just, knowing, like picking up on signals that your body is sending you when you're not being your authentic
Hmm.
self is
Hmm.
how, and listening to it, I
Hmm.
think is how you really do show up at work. And today we've got Claude Silver, author of Be Yourself at Work. She's takes neuroscience. She really makes it accessible to the listener in our podcast, really makes it accessible to the leader as well. And I think one of the things that you do really well, Jason, how you show up to work, is that you care about people. And even when you have hard conversations, because you and I have talked about this before, and Claude Silver would agree with you, you have hard conversations, but you do it with love, right? You
Hmm.
don't put policy ahead of people, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's really, really important. So
Well, and
listeners, this is an
Garth, just not to
yeah,
interrupt
yeah,
you, but
yeah,
you're talking about listening to your body and you're talking about love. I
yeah,
think we should get the chief heart officer on the show sooner than later. What do you think we just drop right into this interview? I think people are gonna love it.
yeah. Enjoy, everybody.
Okay, enjoy the show.
Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. This is the podcast where we take in Ted Lasso's leadership lessons and try to apply them to everyday life and leadership in schools and beyond. And I'm thrilled to be here today with a couple of guests. Well, no, one co-host and one guest. Garth, it's good to be back on the show with you. How are you doing?
Jason, I'm great. Great to see you as always. This is always one of the highlights of my week, so I love this time together. But today is particularly special for our,
It's going to
our
be good.
guest. But as people know, we're in season 3 of our podcast. This is Beard's Book Club, where we're welcoming in authors who are doing incredible work around leadership and really helping us like uh, reframe what leaders can and really should be. And
Hmm.
today's guest falls directly in line. We are thrilled to welcome Claude Silver, the author of Be Yourself at Work. Woo! Welcome, Claude. Could you do us a favor? Could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, guys. My name's Claude Silver. Yes, I wrote this book. I can't believe I get to say I'm an author now. And I'm also the chief heart officer at VaynerX. I work with a great man named Gary Vaynerchuk, or as you may know him as Gary V on social. And I am absolutely passionate about human behavior, absolutely passionate about play, and absolutely passionate about bringing more tenderness and humanity into our places of work. And that is,
Amazing.
oh, I'm a Taurus also.
You're a Taurus,
Yeah.
a mother of two, and the list goes
Taurus,
on,
yeah.
all the things.
All the things. I'm sitting here
Yeah.
in cold New Jersey today. So, but I shouldn't whine. I mean, you're in Toronto.
It's a beautiful sunny -11 today. But Claude, one of your biggest things is like, and we were chatting before we pressed record, but one of the biggest things that you advocate for is you have to, as a leader, be vulnerable in order to let people be vulnerable with you. And it's when you achieve that, that's when true leadership begins. And so, Jason, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you tell us How did you meet Claude?
Oh, thanks for asking. I attend a conference every year. It's called The Gathering, and it's put on in Banff, Alberta. And Claude was the keynote speaker of the whole conference. Really made the whole experience incredible for myself and my colleagues, and we all came home thinking about leadership in a slightly different way. I mean, we believed in everything, Claude, you shared, but then when you put it forward the way you did, we couldn't help but be disciples of this type of leadership and really lean in and follow. And we're thrilled to see your book come out shortly after that. So, Claude, what got me to that presentation in the first place was your job title. So can we take a minute and first, can you share your job title and then get into what a person with that job title might do in an organization? That I think is the first bit we need to get after.
Yes, I love it. Well, I'm honored to have the best title in showbiz. It is Chief Heart Officer. And it is a title that myself and my boss, Gary Vaynerchuk, came up with. It was pretty organic. Just to give a tiny bit of background, I was hired to be VaynerMedia's first SVP, which really meant I was the oldest person in the office and had the longest working history, if you will. The average age was 23 when I joined, and I was 45. So let's put it that way. And Gary and I had spent a lot of time talking about our philosophies around leadership and people, but really how we execute, how we show up every single day, and what we believe in, and how we really want to promote that. And so one thing led to another. I was running a team of about 60 people, and I loved that part, but I really fell out of love with the advertising part. I had a great career, but it wasn't interesting to me anymore. And I said, Gary, you know what? Thank you so much. This has been a great experience. I love it here. You're the best. I don't want to do advertising anymore. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I only care about the humans here.
Mm-hmm.
I care about the heartbeat. And what I meant by that was the vibe, was the people that keep this organization moving and grooving. Because way back, probably in the 70s, someone said, people are our greatest asset. And I say, you know what? People are our company. We don't have a company without people, even if it is you're creating AI and robots all day. I don't think of them. I don't think of us as assets, and I really don't even think of us as employees. So when Gary and I then sat down and he said, that's it, you're going to be Chief Heart Officer, I asked him a couple things. First of all, I never wanted to do HR, right? And he said, yep, you're going to learn HR and you'll hire a great team around you. And I'm thrilled 10 years later we have that. I said, second, I've been here for 16 months. So what is it that we're creating? What are we doing here? You always want to know what the North Star is of your leader. And he said, we are creating the single greatest human organization in the history of time. So, I mean, aspirational, yes, please.
Yeah.
Then I said, of course, how do we know if I'm successful? There is no job description. And he said, you will touch every single human being and infuse the agency with empathy. So we were about 400 then, we're about 2,500 now, globally. And again, aspirational job, but something that felt very much in my nature in terms of, I have a heart to help. I'm passionate about being a champion for people, no matter where they are on their journey. So that is how the title came about. So my job description was touch every single person and infuse the agency with empathy. Okay, well, I'm going to figure out how to do that and how to bring people along with me, because that's a job that needs 1,000 million people. And we can do that. So what Gary would tell you today is I set the emotional framework for the company for 2,500 people. What I think that actually means is because I am high touch and because I see enough people during the day, during the week, I have one-on-ones, I have group talks, I'm really listening for patterns all day long. I'm listening to hear if people are thrilled, happy, getting the growth and development that we promised them. Are they no longer interested? Are they a flight risk? Do they not like their manager? All of the things. I'm listening so that we can modify and we can and change our strategies if we need to. I'm also figuring out how to place people in positions of strength, because that in fact is what Gary did. He said, oh, you're an empath. Let's take you here. You can scale me. And so all day long, as I'm listening to people and creating and holding space, I'm also thinking, who should I introduce this person to? Because they need to know X, Y, and Z. Who should I connect this person to because they're interested in developing their skills here, there, and elsewhere? And if you think about all of that, it really ladders up to high performance and it ladders up to retention. And so I've always said, I want to bring more humanity into the workplace. I want to bring humanity back into the workplace. That takes all of us really being in touch with, or committing to being in touch with, our emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and also what I'm calling emotional fluency, which is, okay, it's one thing to know how you feel. That's fantastic. But it's another thing to then take a pause and choose how you're going to react. That is the key. So all of this goes into all of my conversations, my coaching conversations, my, just talking to someone about whatever, poetry. And something great gets spit out on the end of that 15-minute call usually, or 15-minute meeting, which is I'm in action somehow. I'm taking in what they say and I want to do something on their behalf because I feel like that's my responsibility and because I can, because of the position. That's a lot.
Yeah. I love how you broke down that you are, this concept of you set the emotional framework and the way that you do and the way that you're doing that. And I love the idea that leaders need to spend time like listening for patterns. And so there's a question in here, like 2,500 people. How are you seeing people? How do you feel that you are high touch? But there was something else in here too, where you said, without people, you don't have a company.
Mm.
And it's interesting because sometimes in our line of work, Jason and I, we have parents or even faculty who are looking for a response from quote unquote the school, right? As if the school itself is generating the answers.
Right.
And so we always try and point to, these are the people in the school. And ultimately, we wear that leadership hat. So I'm interested, how do you, in your role, make sure that you are high touch with 2,500 people?
Well, there's a few very prescriptive ways I do that, which is one, I have my calendar is open. Anyone that wants to come and speak to me, they know they can pop 15 minutes in the calendar. Anyone I want to speak to, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to say, hey, I'm hearing great things about you. I can't wait to get time. Or, hey, you've been here for 6 months. I've never met you. Or I've heard that there's smoke somewhere over here. And so I proactively reach out to them. They never know that I'm reaching out because of smoke. They know I'm reaching out because I just can't wait to listen to them. That's the first time. So my calendar on a daily basis is pretty packed with 15-minute meetings. It's also packed with catching up with other people on what we call the people and experience team. So remember, I said to Gary, I don't want to do HR. And he said, well, you're going to do it and hire a great team around you. I immediately changed the name of HR to people and experience because that common sense dictates that's what we do in a workplace and basically in life. And so there are teams that I have that are all over the world now that are trained in psychological safety and emotional intelligence. And I have hourly meetings with them, Slacks with them, whatever with them. So I'm getting an idea of how the floor is. Are they buzzing? How this team is going? Then, and that's on, I can talk to someone right now. It's too late in Singapore, but I can certainly hit up our London or Amsterdam office right now and just say, hey, how's everyone doing today? Then what I did in the beginning, though, is I created culture champions. I don't call them culture carriers. I think it's even more than that. They're champions for the culture. And these are people that have a day job, but I know I can call on them, Slack, text, whatever, and say, you know what, I hear Bobby in the Amsterdam office is having a tough time today. Do you mind going and taking him out for coffee? I'm not going to go into his personal details that his dad
Yeah.
might be in hospice, but I might just say, can you check in on Bobby? Can you check in on Sally? Those types of things. Or what I'm going to do is I meet Jason for the first time after he's been here for 9 months. And I say, hey, Jason, have you met anyone outside of your pod? No, I haven't. Cool. Great. I am going to introduce you to 7 or 8 people. And it's going to say, hey, everyone, meet my new friend, Jason. He's a media analyst. He's interested in surfing. He loves snowboarding. And I know that you all will find 15 minutes within the next 3 months to get time with him. And then Jason goes off and he meets these 8 people. And when he's meeting these 8 people, he's going to say, hey, who else should I talk to? Because our strength is in our connective tissue. That is how we scale. And we scale also through osmosis, which means we need to spend time with one another to get the vibe, to get the feeling. Why are you here? Why have you chosen to be here for 7 years? Gosh, that's a long time, right? I've been here almost 12 years. That's unheard of for me.
Yeah.
So
Claude, that is
a lot of different ways. Sorry about that. Yeah. And then
no. I don't mean to cut you off. There's so much. I've got a million thoughts running through my mind, Claude.
Yes.
And I can't help but think of, I just saw Brian Stevenson speak last week at NAIS, and he talks about being proximate and how important that is and the humanity. And I'm just in love with his work, and it's just oozing through what you're talking about. That's partially why I'm so excited. The other thing is I can't help but see you as the heartbeat of your organization, or maybe even the pacemaker in some respects, is like that tool that's helping other people get out there and do the work, because you're enabling them in this really highly proficient and predictable way. But you said something, and all these things, I've got a million notes here, but I'm going to go back to the beginning of your comments, because you said something that I think our listeners would love to hear your advice on. You said you went off to Gary Vee, and I want to talk about him later too, but you went off and said, I've fallen out of love with my job. What do I do next, or something along those lines? But I want you to sit in the head seat for a minute, or in leader's seat, and somebody comes to you and says, listen, Claude, I've fallen out of love with my job. What should I do? How would you advise listeners of this podcast, if they're in a leadership role, to respond to somebody who might come with that? Because I think it's the exact thing that we're looking for, is like being yourself at work is being authentic and vulnerable and open and sharing. And so give us some advice, Claude. I'd be super interested in hearing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone came to me, and many people have come to me and said that, I'm not going to go into why necessarily. That might be another conversation. But I might say, I understand, I hear you. That's happened to me before. I might relate to them. And then I'm going to say, what is it that you love doing? I'm not going to go down the why are you out of love with that job necessarily. I'm going to stay in the possibility and the growth mindset of it all. What is it that you're interested in? And so say they are a data analyst, and they're just, they're not great with numbers. This is a real stretch for them. They're out of their comfort zone, and they know that they'd be better someplace else. Instead of having them leave the company because they've been with us for 2 years or 3 years and they've got the IP, what is it that you're interested in? Oh, I'm interested in platform and AI. Oh, great. Okay, well, let me introduce you to these 5 people. Why don't you go do a deep dive with them and see if what they're talking about is interesting to you? And then let's talk. But in the meantime, I need you to still do your job. But let's regroup in about a month and hear those people. That's what I would most likely say. And what Gary said to me was, he didn't ask me why. He said, what do you want to do? And that's the same thing I would ask. What is it that interests you? What lights you up? What are you passionate about? And oftentimes when I'm doing coaching, especially with younger folks, not necessarily with senior players, one of the questions I'll ask them is, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to grow up and be? A teacher. Oh, I wanted to be a first baseman for the Boston Red Sox. Okay. And in those answers, sometimes I can glean some kind of context. Oh, a teacher. Okay. So a leader, you want to be in a leadership position. You have things to offer. You want to educate. Okay. First baseman, you're a team player. I'm intuiting these things. I could be right or wrong, but I would say that I'll use a hockey analogy for my friends here. Oftentimes we have to go to where that person is. Oftentimes, we're the ones that have to literally go there so they can pass us the puck. And most often, other times, you need to go follow the puck. You need to be where the puck is. So the reason I bring that up is there's a proactiveness and a reactiveness there. And when someone comes to say, hey, Claude, I don't really know what I want to do anymore, they're coming to me to be proactive. I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, let's talk about it. What did you want to do when you were 6? And, oh, your family of origin and all that. No, let's move. Let's move and groove, right? We've got tons of opportunity. And if it's not within our 4 walls, we can certainly try to help you outside. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. It's so interesting because proactive, reactive. Jason and I are both heads of school in schools that have different campuses. And one of the things, I'm in my first year as head of school. And one of the things that I continually struggle with is that being proximate, feeling like I am accessible. And so I appreciate your prescriptive approach. What advice would you have for Jason and I in being available, in being present across 2 different campuses?
Yeah. Getting to know as many people as you possibly can from all sides of the coin. I think it would be obvious that you would get to know the administrators and the teachers, but what about the students? That's what I would say. I mean, that's where the gold is right there, your students. And
100%.
So when we have a new joiner start, especially if they're a senior player, we say, go on a listening tour for 30 days. Don't even open your mouth. Just take notes. Just take notes. There's nothing we need from you other than to understand the people, because through that, you'll understand what this culture is about and what we really pride ourselves in, which is a people first culture, which is a culture of friendship, I would say, and a culture of performance, but also a culture that is warm and that is friendly.
Now, Claude, Garth mentioned one of my campuses is for students who have a diagnosed learning disability. So we have about 300 students who learn at that school with a diagnosed learning disability. Really, really incredible all-world place. And for a long time, I've thought to myself that the workplace is the next frontier in the workplace is neurodivergence. And how do we support staff members who have neurodivergence in the workplace? I'm curious if you have an opinion with this, because I think some managers struggle with neurodivergence, whether it's anything from dyslexia to processing speed to ASD in the workplace. I think is becoming more and more recognized. I think it was always there, but I think it's more and more recognized. So I'm certain that with 2,500 employees in spaces that bridge all sorts of job descriptions, there's a bit of neurodiversity over with you. And I'm curious, how do you work with your managers and your teams to support that?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for bringing that up. That's where we are today. I mean, that's where we've always been, but at least our aperture is on this very specific audience, which is so important. I will say we have what we call CRGs. Most companies call them ERGs. CRGs, called community resource groups. We have them for people that are of the Jewish faith. We have them for people that identify as Black or African American. We have them for people that identify with seen or unseen abilities. It's called VayAbilities, which is wonderful. They have a place to go to. So we have created a lot of new offices recently, and all of these new offices have been designed for those people that have neurodivergent behaviors, meaning they're quiet spaces. There are spaces that you only wear your headphones in. There are couches, if that's how you work. There are walking treadmills, if that's how you work. So things like that can help people. We also have a bunch of different tools that we use to help people with dyslexia. Like I have dyslexia, which is a superpower now, but always wasn't. And ADHD. We have a lot of that right now. The thing that we're aware of on the people and experience team is most of the time we're aware that people are either challenged or struggling with this, or they are succeeding with this because they're coming in and telling us. Where there is somewhat of a breakdown, I will say, is not everyone is trained in terms of how to react to that. So if I'm an employee and I say to my manager, say this is my second job in the world, I'm dyslexic. I have a really hard time reading out loud. I would hope to be met with compassion and some kind of civility. Some people don't know how to react to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so what do they would put it back on me. So what do you do about that? I don't know. I mean, I used to work with a tutor and I practice reading out loud, but sometimes I stumble over my words when I'm in front of people. Okay. Just want you to know that, manager. And then what we would like that manager to say is, hey, thank you so much for sharing that information.
Right.
Noted. It's something that we can work on here. So that goes back to leadership and management and how people are able to hold others. Right? You don't have to have the solution. I'm not looking for the solution. You can't cure my dyslexia. Only I can with the right tools. Only I can work with it. But what we would want is someone to say, got you, heard, and we've got Grammarly, and are you willing to practice reading out loud with me or with someone else? Cool.
I love that example because there's a level of accountability there too, right?
Yeah.
There's vulnerability, and you've said this throughout our time together. There's vulnerability, and that leads to action, which I really, really like. There's a quotation in your book, and we can build off of that idea through this quotation that I'm really interested in, and I think it's important for all leaders right now in a world that's increasingly polarized, where communication can suffer. The ability to be vulnerable, people are protecting, can be seen as protecting against that. But in your book, you write, this is the idea that leaders need to understand and get behind what is an actual crisis versus a manufactured crisis. And you write that the companies that can distinguish between real and manufactured urgency show up differently. They're more creative, more resilient, and you're right, this is important, more capable of handling actual crises when they arrive because they aren't burnt out. People have the energy and care to show up when it counts the most. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about how do leaders working in this way, where they're welcoming vulnerability, and I love how you phrased it, where you are holding them, right? How does that help in identifying actual crises, and how does that help in responding with energy and care?
Yeah. So and thank you for reading that out loud. I absolutely remember writing that because I was thinking about how we create this fake sense or false sense of urgency every single day. When you send an email, when I send an email and it says, I'll get back to you ASAP. Even if I'm not going to get back to them today, I'm saying as soon as possible, which is all in caps. By the way, we don't write ASAP in lowercase. So it's calling attention, or it's saying, oh my God, we need to get this to the client today. Okay, why today or why in the next hour, right? Unless the sky is falling or they're presenting to their CMO today, right? I think it's okay if you get them, whatever it is, the deliverable a little bit later. I just think there are crises. There are things that are urgent. There are fire drills that we all need to attend to. And then there are things that I think we can find a little bit of grace around. So fire drills, health. People are in danger. Fire drills, someone just assaulted someone, danger, right? ASAP, urgent. Oh my God, someone's having a panic attack. Someone is having a seizure. I mean, I'm really using serious things because that's when I think we need to, stop the show, stop what we're doing, and attend to these people, just like you do when there's a fire, right? Or when there's a fire drill, you listen. Is it all clear, or do we have to hustle down the stairs? The idea that everything is yesterday is because of this wonderful thing we call the phone. Everything is immediate for us. Thus, I believe we are then asked to do things immediately. We are so used to, our civilization now is so used to things being in front of us now. Now. Right? When when the three of us grew up, we're Gen Xers, I'm assuming here, at least I am. we didn't have a phone. It wasn't like, all right, well, I'll get to you in 5 weeks, but it was like, yeah, we'll call you tomorrow when we have it. It wasn't like, we'll get to you today, no matter what time it is. One of the things I really appreciate that I've seen a lot on different people's emails, company emails, is, hey, respond to this during your time. I might send you this email in a different time zone. Please don't respond to this if it's after working hours, which really, I think, gets back to the humanity of it all. But one thing I'll say in the working world is, because we are so attached to our phones, myself included, oftentimes you will have people texting one another throughout the night, ideas, different iterations of a scope or a project. And what does that do to the person that woke up and all of a sudden sees that these 3 people were on WhatsApp all night, and I just woke up? Holy cow, now I'm out of the loop. I'm anxious. Am I not needed? My imposter syndrome kicks in. Okay, well, we've just taken a person who's been calm, woken up, and created absolute disasterness in that person's mind and minefield right now. I mean, like,
And limbic system, right?
That's what,
Like we're living in this heightened limbic system world. I love how you're putting that forward. And so now, how do we respond with grace in those moments?
Well, in those moments, in terms of, I think we need to be careful of when we write ASAP or when we write,
right.
This needs to be sent in by end of day. Okay, what does that mean? I worked in England for a while, and they say end of play rather than end of day. And I really like that, because end of play doesn't have to be 5 o'clock. It could be my 8 o'clock. End of day, we know, is about 5 or 6. So how do we respond to that is, as you said, with grace, is like literally talking to whomever it is that's sending the emails or sending the text messages at midnight, and saying, or having someone of authority say, you know what, that's creating a lot of anxiety in your team when they wake up or when they go to bed and they see that the text messages are scrolling. Like, we have to stop texting around 8 or 9 p.m. That just has to be. Or you talk to your team and you decide that texts are okay up until 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But that's something that each and every cohort, I think, has a right to decide for themselves, or each and every organization. That's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Claude,
It's a human thing.
I was going to, I'm going to ask one last question. We said we'd keep you for 20 minutes. We've already kept you for much longer than that. So thank you for your time. But I was going to throw your limbic system into total distress, but I've decided to reshape the question. So hear me out on this. I'm wondering, what is the greatest, or I was going to ask you, who's a better leader, Gary Vee or Ted Lasso? And I was like, oh, that could be a career limiting move perhaps. But instead, I'm going to ask the question, what's the greatest leadership quality that you admire about Gary Vee? And what is one leadership quality that you admire about Ted Lasso? And then Garth will bring us home here.
There are so many about Gary, but I will say possibility and positivity. It's something the cup is always full, no matter what, unless it has to do with someone's health. And he's taught me that it's not half full, it's full. I love that. Ted Lasso has a belief, as we know, it says belief. He has a belief in the underdog. He has a belief in humans. And that is something that I think we can all take a very healthy drink from. The belief. And he's working with underdogs.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
I love it. So I'm gonna try and bring us home here. Okay. So
All right.
Here's what we do. So Ted Lasso has there's a couple of great mantras that come out of Ted Lasso, and one of my favorites is "Be curious, not judgmental." Right? In your book, I do want to underscore there's a lot of neuroscience in this book. Like, you are heavily trained, well qualified to speak on these behalfs. And there's something that I really loved was that that emotions aren't random, they're actually data points. Before you feel an emotion, your brain gives you about 4 seconds, and it's a moment to pause and reflect. And so you have given me a mantra, a sort of a tagline, and you say those 90 seconds, 4 seconds here, and then once the chemicals run through your body, it works out to about 90 seconds. And so something I've taken from your book, and actually have written it down in my journal. You say, if you can ride the wave rather than drown in it, you're already leading yourself. And I think leaders like this, your book speaks to it, your role speaks to it, allowing us to lead ourselves first in a world of a heightened limbic system is really, really important. And so now we also have a tagline. We also have a mantra, Claude. So I'm wrapping this all together. It's been wonderful having you on this podcast.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to say the tagline in a second, but before we do, where can our listeners find more of your work?
Yes, thank you guys so much. I've loved it. You can go to claudesilver.com. That's where you can find my work. You can order the book there, which is awesome. I'm so happy you love the book. I do too. I'm really active on LinkedIn, I would say. That's probably like my biggest place where I love the communities there. I find that we are a village creating something new and needed. So that's where you can find me.
All right, claudesilver.com, and then LinkedIn. Get the book. It's available everywhere. It's an incredible read, especially if you're interested in leading in a way that calms us down and then allows us to lead ourselves. So with that, Claude, do you mind taking our listeners home with our tagline, our mantra?
Keep leading the Lasso way.
All right.
Well done,
Thank you
Claude.
so much.
Thank you. That was unreal.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
time. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, listeners.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show with lessons from Ted.